I'd like you to imagine the worst case scenario. You spent all these years collecting knives, and all of a sudden, they're all gone. And you have to start all over. What do you do? That's the question I'm going to ask myself today. If I had to start over and I had to make a 5 knife collection, just 5 knives to cover all the bases, knowing what I know now and being able to try all the different knives that I've already tried, what would those 5 knives be? And then on top of it, I'm going to add another wrinkle to this whole thing. For some weird reason, maybe I didn't get my money back. So I'm going to make all 5 of these knives stay under $80 each. Let's go ahead and get started. My 5 knife collection, yours might be completely different, so I fully admit that. But I highly recommend you consider having at least one knife in your collection that can do what these 7 knives actually can. And that is be basically impervious to the environment, right? It does not give a damn about salt water. All of these could literally sit in the ocean for weeks and barely get any spotting whatsoever. They're really, really, really resistant to corrosion. And as you can tell, a lot of these don't fit within the $80 budget. Like this thing right here, this is the Quiet Carry Drift, one of my favorite knives, absolutely without question. This thing is $300. So yeah, that one's definitely out. And most of these others range between like 105 and like 115, depending on which one you're looking for. Now, one of them is actually quite a bit cheaper, and that is going to be the Dragonfly 2 at exactly $80, right at that sweet spot that we're looking for. And even though I have all those knives, this is actually the one that I keep in the zipper pocket of my swim trunks, and I basically ignore it until I need it. I don't bother even oiling this thing, and it just doesn't care. It's just one of those knives that just does not matter what you do to it. It's going to hang and not give a damn. And having that fully serrated blade actually makes a lot of sense, specifically with the H series steels, because they work harden, which makes the edge quite a bit harder than the steel back here. So they hold an edge for a much longer time with serrations than you might expect. So I think this is like the perfect, like I need to cut something on the beach, or I'm at the pool and I don't want to think about anything else. This knife you don't have to worry about. You literally just ignore it. So this is my first pick out of 5. And it's also going to fulfill a small knife roll, which is important as well. We're going to move on to my next category, which is a very fun one and probably not something everyone goes for, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Next category we have to talk about is a cold steel. I'm just going to call it like it is. I mean, the knife is going to be made by cold steel because it's going to be within a budget under 80, and it's going to have ridiculous locking and be able to be abused. I just don't think there is a single brand out there that even comes close to what is offered by Cold Steel. Just full stop. They're made in Taiwan. They have really good value prospect, and they're just overbuilt as heck. Now, in this particular instance, we are not going to be able to use the 8010. So that one's out, obviously. That's going to be over our budget. But both of these, oh, I would absolutely include either one in this tough, hard use kind of situation. The first one is the Airlight, and actually this is in my real rotation. I use this on a regular basis because it's very thin but very tough, like way tougher than it has any right to be when it's only made of basically G10 sandwiched between, with steel sandwiched between it. It's kind of amazing how tough this knife actually is. At one point I took this and basically beat it with a rubber mallet through a 2x8, not all the way through it, but I was impressed to see that nothing happened to the lockup whatsoever. The one issue in this particular context that I have to address is that the handle is kind of thin, so it's not the most ergonomic thing to use if you're going to do stuff for a long period of time. So I believe if I was going to pick one knife, even though I really like this one, this is more in my rotation than the others, I think the Voyager in either the large or the XL would be the right call. Now the XL has a 5.5-inch blade. The thing is an absolute monster, basically like a folding machete. But it's phenomenal for yard work if you don't want to go with a fixed blade. Because it folds up into its own handle, you don't have to worry about the location of the sheath, and it has a clip you can clip to a belt or otherwise. Sometimes, not always, but in the case of the saltwater knives and in cold steel knives, sometimes they can do a good enough job that you don't need the fixed blade. And I think this is one of those knives that can do that. So in this case, we're going with the Cold Steel Voyager drop point because I think it's the most versatile of the blade shapes. It's stronger than the full flat grind because it has a slightly stronger tip. You can see it's going to be a little bit thicker. It's got a more useful edge than I think the Tanto does, which, don't get me wrong, the Tanto is pretty awesome, but I think this is a little bit more versatile. It's a full flat grind as well, so it's not hollow, which is great. And yeah, it's just a great knife. Yeah, certainly you can choke up, you can do bushcraft tasks with this without any issue, you can do all kinds of woodcraft, you can baton with it. Yeah, you're not supposed to, but trust me, these things hold up no problem. It has reinforced steel liners. You can see them all the way through there. Nice and tough. FRN handles with crazy grip. In fact, one thing I will say about this, if you get one, you're going to need to fill in some of this. Otherwise, it will rip up your pockets like nobody's business. But it's, in this particular instance, more grip is better because you can always fix that by either sanding it down or filling it up with some epoxy. The Cold Steel Voyager, large size, AUS 10A, around $50 to $60 depending on which one you get. This is my second pick. It's also the large knife in the group at just around a 4-inch cutting edge, or sorry, 4-inch total blade length with a slightly smaller cutting edge. And it's also going to fulfill another aspect, which is my pseudo, I hate using this word, but like, you know, the kind of knife that you can feel more comfortable keeping in your pocket in scary environments. I don't know how else to say it. I guess let's just call it. It's a tactical knife, right? It's more in line with that, and you can even get a Emerson style thumb stud attachment that will let it deploy automatically out of your pocket. So I think that this is going to fulfill that role. So this would be my second pick of the 5. So the first two knives we talked about were very functional in nature, right? One is for heavy abuse, the other one is going to work in any environment. Now we're entering into something that is a lot more personal. You get to kind of pick more of what you're looking for. And the category I'm looking for here, at least for me, is elegance. I'm looking for something really enjoyable but fancy looking. Could be steel frame look. It could be a lot of different things. Now, for fun, I put a couple expensive knives on the table. Obviously, the Hogue Deca and MagnaCut is going to be well out of the budget, but I do really like it, especially with these aluminum scales. And probably my favorite like knife, basically maybe ever, that I've gotten is got to be this, the Winter Bladeco Factor. This thing is just one of the coolest knives that exists in the world. And it has a great sound among everything else. But we are talking way out of the budget with that one, and good luck trying to even find one. Now this is more like it, right? And I think when I'm talking elegant, I'm thinking wood handle. I think that it's got a warmer feel to it, a more personal feel to it as well, because under 80, there's only so much you can do with customization. But when you buy something that has a wood handle, it's going to be personal to you because no other knife is going to have that exact pattern. And as I've talked about in past videos, my favorite of the wood-handled knives is going to have to be the Voltaic. So this is made by Civivi. It is a bolster lock knife made out of a steel bolster lock. It is beautiful in that it has black wash with beautiful wood handle inlays. I have also added a titanium pocket clip which matches perfectly with that black wash steel, and the action on this thing is so phenomenal. I love this knife. I just absolutely adore it. This is very much the knife for me. It's just, I don't like, this has, there's no stats. It's not a stat knife. It's just pure feeling, and this knife is one of the ones that makes me very happy. It really, really does. So I wouldn't want to tell you what you should have in this slot, only that if I only could have five, one of them should give you a lot of joy to carry, to use, to look at. It should be the full range of intangibles, right? Don't worry about what steel it is. Don't worry about anything. Like, it should give you joy, whatever that happens to be. It could be a slip joint knife, right? It could be something that you kept from a family member, something that gives you a lot of enjoyment. And I think that for me, that's what this does. And so I'm going to include the Voltaic as my third knife in the collection. And that brings us to everyday carry. Basically, like the knives that you're going to carry that are covering all the things that you do every day. I could add about 30 more knives to this table, and I still would have a hard time picking between them. So I had to think to myself, what knives are basically irreplaceable in how they're used, how they function, whether I enjoy them. I mean, I'm really having to narrow this down. This is really, really tough. First off, I have to eliminate knives that I'm carrying just because I'm just so enthused with their value. As good as the Migrons are, and they are incredible, they are not my favorite when it comes to enjoyment. If I ignore the value aspect, which these are just insane for sub $50, I have to think about which ones I enjoy the most. So even though the Pagos and the Majarl are just insane as far as value, they are not my favorite knives to carry. So we're going to take those out first. And even though I've thought about this a lot, I'm still struggling with the final two. So bear with me. The next thing I have to cut are the knives that, oh man, this is, once I got to this, those were the easy ones. Now I have to figure out what to do from here. And I'm really, really struggling. I'm just looking at these 6 knives and going, Jesus, having to cut them is really tough. Okay, the first one I'm going to cut is also probably the most comfortable of the knife handles. This is the Sokoke, and just one of the better knives made by Civivi. Just has a little bit of everything, has front flipping action, has 14C28. It's very enjoyable, but is simply just not my favorite of favorite knives. Without question, it would be in any top 5 list for Civivi. But man, we're really narrowing it down here. It's getting to get real hard, real quick. Okay, the next knife I have to eliminate because it has one small quirk that makes it a little bit annoying to carry, and that is that it rips up my pants like nobody's business. But I absolutely adore this knife from Vosteed. Oh my goodness. The hollow grind, the fact that it can reverse flick, and it actually has a combination of back flipping and front flipping that actually doesn't suck. It doesn't actually interact with your hand the way some of them do. It has great ergonomics, but it ever so slightly falls behind. Just very slightly. We're going to take that one out. I hate doing that. I hate that. But I think I got to cut that one. Which leaves us with 4, and man, this is really tough. If I have to shrink this down to 2. Okay, all right. Remember when I said that the size of the Dragonfly would come into play? I do think you need one knife in your collection under that 3-inch mark, in case you run into a place where you have a legality issue and you have to run something under 3 inches. And because I already have one with the Dragonfly, I'm going to have to eliminate the Cubit, even though this is another one of those incredible EDC knives. Very thin, very slicey, very enjoyable, very good ergonomics. Like, man, that's a tough one, man. And it has a bottle opener on top of it. I mean, I'm still going back and forth, by the way. I may end up changing my mind here in just a minute, but I think I'm going to have to eliminate this one for now. So let's start with adding one to the collection that I'm sure will 100% be in the collection. Guaranteed, top 5. That is going to have to be the Vosteed Nightshade. I cannot describe to you why this knife is so good, you're just going to have to try one for yourself. There's no other way to say it. It has the ability to be good at draw cutting, but still have a lot of belly for all kinds of other tasks that you might have. And it's just a great knife. It's just a great knife. And they've just done such a good job with the pocket clips and the micarta and the bolster and just everything else. It's in 154 cm. It comes in under, I believe, just under $80 or $70, depending on the version you get. The action is incredible as well. Yeah, this is a home run and is absolutely going to make it into the 5. So recap here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're looking for one more, just one more knife, and it's going to be one of these two. And up until this very moment, I'm still not sure which one I want. Okay, so here's my thought process with this, and this is really tough. If I pick the Vision FG, that means I don't have a button lock, but it still gives me the fidget factor that I was looking for in this last slot. So I knew it had to be something in the fidgety realm. And I knew it also wanted to be like something that was a little bit more companion-esque that would complement a multi-tool really well. And in the past, that knife has been the XL Pyrite because it's a large knife, it's a thin cutting knife, and it's just enjoyable to use. It's also really easy to clean. So if I use it for food prep, no problem whatsoever. I can also choke up. This is, I think, could still, in theory, be the correct choice. But I'm currently crushing on the Vision FG, if I'm being honest, and it kind of has that sound factor to it as well. Whereas, because I don't get to access the, this is so good. The factor, because I can't get that, right? I can't get that sound because that's amazing. I still really like it. I think it sounds excellent. It's fidgety, and don't get me wrong, that is an important factor. The sound aspect is important. It's also designed very much to be a food prep knife, right? It's got that real leading edge, like perfect paring knife kind of shape to it. It's got that really strong super lock, something really unique. And there pretty much is only, this is it. This is the only knife like this under $80. So I'm actually going to go with the Vision FG. The only thing I'm trying, no, that's it. That's it. We're done. This is my 5-knife collection. If I have to, keep it under $80, and I only get to keep 5 knives forever. You know, I have a pretty good set of options here. I got one bolster lock, one frame lock, one flipper tab, one small knife, one back lock, one serrated knife, one small knife, one large knife, one tough knife, and one fidgety knife, one good sounding knife with micarta, and a food prep knife as well. So I think I did a good job. So here's what I'm saying. You try this and see how easy it is for you if you have to set up these same criteria. And if you do, use hashtag 5-knife challenge. Just let's see what you can come up with, because I love the concept of forcing you to constrain what you have to figure out what is actually of value. And so here we are. These are my 5 picks. I'm curious what you come up with. Let me know down in the comments. If you're not going to make a video, let me know down in the comments. What 5 knives, if you were forced to, with your hand tied behind your back, would you pick? As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.